So I'm on a personal campaign to get everybody to use YouTube, if you're willing. Okay, at a UU church, all announcements are prefaced with "if you're willing," right? But if you would, turn off the sound, but turn on YouTube. Say hello to those of us who have put comments out there, and then, if you think of it, share it with a friend. Just when I think I'm all ready. Thanks for noticing.
Good morning. Oh, that sounded terrible. Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, much better. Good morning to those of you here in the sanctuary and to those of you viewing us online. My name is Chris Monk, and I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Flint. We are a progressive LGBTQ+ affirming religious community in which people are encouraged to be themselves. If you would like more information about our faith tradition or this congregation, please feel free to talk to one of our ministers today or via their contact information that can be found at our website at uuflint.org. If you're a visitor and you are interested in receiving our weekly email newsletter, You may sign up at our website, scan the QR code on the back of your order of service, or you will see one of these cards in the seat back. Fill out the back and set it at the table in the back. Filling out this card doesn't obligate you to anything, doesn't mean people are going to call on you or anything like that. But there is so much information in our email update as to what we're doing and what's going on. So that's the best way to keep track of us. Now, see, on the back of your order of service are important announcements, but I'm going to highlight a few. Please consider joining us at a peace vigil at St. Paul's Church on September 26th. A doctor who worked at a hospital in Gaza will speak via live stream online presentation. The event is at 6 o'clock. But we are also meeting here at the church at 4:30 for pizza, if you would like, and then carpool over to St. Paul's. So please email or call the church office if you will be joining us for pizza, so we have enough. Second, want to do something good for the world with or without some good exercise at the same time? Join this year's Crop Hunger Walk on October 6th. It starts at Court Street United Methodist Church at 2 o'clock. We did this as a church about 2 years ago, and Terry and I are both doing it this year. The last time we did it, we had 8 to 10 people from this congregation that went. And it's an easy 3-mile walk, no big hills like the Krim, nothing like that. And we have information outside in the narthex after the service. And join us. I mean, we need to support world hunger and help get that under control. And if you don't want to walk, we still need you to make a donation. Instead of giving people individual packets to get donations, we're going to get a donation from people here in our church and give it to them that way. All right, now, this is very exciting, and it's amazing that we're even doing this. Join us as we raise our voices in song in this critical election year. We are calling it Sing Out the Vote, and it happens right here, October 11th at 7 p.m. Musicians Matt Matroba, Dan Hall and Friends, and Mustard's Retreat will be with us to lead this musical Get Out the Vote pep rally. Admission is free, but you need to reserve your spot by getting a ticket.
Oh, wait a minute, not free, it's a donation.
I know, I was gonna say that, Terry.
Okay.
Jeez. Admission is free, but we are requesting donations that will be given to Planned Parenthood. And how cool is this? How often do you get 3 headliners together in the same place and it not costing you $50 to $75 for a ticket? So that should be really cool. And that also is in your e-update. Lastly, last announcement is Bonnie would like more people to join choir. We have a special song coming up on November 3rd. See, she's so good. On November 3rd, and we need more people to help in that special song. So choir practice days are Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. and last approximately an hour. Okay, got that right. So That one isn't on the back of your order of service, but choir practice Wednesdays at 6:30. So we have a lot going on. I mean, I'm so pleased we're such an active church. I'm on my calendar just marking this date, marking this date, marking this date, because there's so much going on. So now we will light our chalice. We light this chalice to symbolize our living tradition. Let this flame symbolize our passion to bring our faith into action and our prophetic voice to the people. May our passion and commitment serve to advance human rights and social justice around the world, so that all may live in the spirit of light and love. Please join me in reciting our covenant, recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service. We gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Our opening words are from Annie Dillard. We are here to abet creation and to witness it, to notice each thing so each thing gets noticed. Together, we notice not only each mountain shadow and each stone on the beach, but we notice each other's beautiful face and complex nature so that creation need not play to an empty house.
Okay, this is a test to see if you can join the choir. Let's all stand up and sing. Page 121, We'll Build a Land. We'll build a land where the bind up the broken. We'll build a land where captives go free, where the joy of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, make peace, where justice and roll down like waters, and peace like a ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the glad tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up devastated from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then be a peace where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. You sounded very beautifully, so on the third, make sure you're here because you're going to fill up the voices even if you don't come to choir practice. Thank you. Please be seated.
Please remember that after our words of meditation and our time of silence, you'll be invited to come forward and light a candle of joy or concern if you like, or you can also go to the back and do that. And if you want to have a joy or concern printed in our weekly e-update newsletter, just write it down in one of the books at the back. We create a web of life. This is finally the time to let go of the crazy notion that we can live separate and aloof from one another. We create a web of life out of every part of our lives. Even the cruelty, even the abuse, even the addictions, even the loneliness, even the failures. As part of that web of life, we can all rest knowing that we have power. We can step forward. We can act now for the healing of the world. The world is not going to be saved by perfectly good people. It's not going to be saved by noble people. The world is going to be healed by ordinary people like you and me. Let us enjoy our time of silence.
Let's sing the last verse of We'll Build a Land. Come build a land with mantles of praises resound from spirits once faint and once weak, where like oaks of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream.
Eco-philosopher Joanna Macy is a scholar of Buddhism, general systems theory, and deep ecology, and served as a professor at our UU seminary in Berkeley, California. She says she is a peace and justice activist so that when things fall apart, we will not turn on each other. The following is from an interview with Macy in 2017. The most radical thing any of us can do at this time is to be fully present with what is happening in the world. There has been a diminishment of our capacity to absorb news that might upset us. We must work to overcome the fragmenting of our culture through the hyper-individualism that this has produced. And it's produced a sense of isolation. We nurture and feed the separate ego, separate individual. That leaves very little to fall back on if you have to confront something unpleasant. People used to be able to rely on certain things. Reliance on the earth being here. Relying on the teachings you had. Relying on some values that mattered to you. Relying on your relationships with people. But we are hampered by this difficulty. This difficulty that people have in sustaining the gaze. It's not that people don't care or don't know, but that people are afraid to suffer. I work to open the eyes and open the hearts to discover again and again that acceptance of that discomfort and pain actually reflects the depths of your caring and commitment. And then people can become positively charged with determination and caring and creativity. When people get integrated and find how good it feels, then they really want that more. They want it more than that narcotic of ignorance and delusion. And you can't do it alone. Because alone you get overwhelmed and it becomes traumatizing. But once people have tasted that, they can, with each other, speak about what they see and feel is happening in the world. A number of things can happen. There is a return to your own self-respect. People see themselves facing an overwhelming foe with conviction of their purpose. They begin to break through their reluctance to suffer with our world. A feeling comes of, oh, I can be here. And that feels more liberating and true. People can dare to be comfortable with uncertainty if they are in solidarity with each other.
One afternoon, Samuel June Barrows, a young Baptist minister, was strolling the streets of Boston, and he entered a second-hand bookstore. He purchased a used volume of sermons, and he found them, quote, beautifully poetic, and the spiritual themes handled with reverence and delicacy, unquote. He said that the words inspired him to have a sudden and newfound hope for the destiny of humanity. Now, only after he and his wife had finished that volume did they discover that those sermons were the theological musings of a nearby Unitarian minister. Almost immediately, they both claimed that they lost hold of the strands that held them in their orthodox path. Reverend Barrows said the discovery changed his views, although he had long been a straying sheep and was owned by no special fold for quite a while. The year was 1871. What followed was what the fallen Baptist called his ecclesiastic trial by mail. He reflected that he would have rather met his superiors face to face, like the heretics of days gone by, but instead, he was resigned to the fact that he would have to write a letter to his Baptist superiors 250 miles away explaining his conversion to Unitarianism. Just as he expected, first, they sent letters back trying to reconvert him. Barrows claimed that the theological distance that separated them was further than the actual distance. He remembers thinking it would have been easier to turn a tree back to a seedling or to put a chicken back in an egg at that point than to convert him. The next letter was an arraignment of Barrows. The final letter was an excommunication. For Barrows' still devout Baptist family, it brought great, great sadness. For Barrows himself, it was a turning point in his life that brought unfathomable gladness. This respected Baptist minister, who had also served as a reporter for the New York Tribune and had accompanied General Custer in battles in the Wild West, then decided to do something truly unexpected. He entered the Unitarian Harvard Divinity School. After 3 years, he finished, and then he was offered another, just one more, reporting gig with the Tribune to accompany General Custer for one last adventure. Barrows' wife, Isabel, begged him, instead of going with Custer, would you not just take a Unitarian pastoral post? Well, luckily Barrows listened to Isabel and assumed the post of minister at the Unitarian Church of Dorchester, Massachusetts, rather than accompanying Custer on what ended up being his last stand. When Barrows preached his first sermon, it was entitled, God is Love. It was evident that his new faith would drastically change his life, but at the time, no one knew the extent to which his conversion would lead to the fight for justice for millions and millions of people to this very day. Now, remarkably, Joanna Macy's life, the author of the reading this morning, mirrors Barrows' conversion story. Although Macy had been raised in a much more liberal congregational church and came from a long line of clergy in her family, when she left home as a young adult, she gave up religion completely. But then, as a young mother living in Germany in the 1950s, Macy also walked into a bookstore. In her case, she picked up an old copy of Rilke's Book of Hours, but it was in the original German, and she just happened to open up to these lines, which I'm going to read in English. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I give myself to it. I have been circling around God, that primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know, am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? Macy says that what had confined her definition of the sacred suddenly fell away. She experienced an excitement about being alive in a world that itself was sacred. She would translate this formative poetry into English some 40 years later. Now, Macy recalls that Rilke's words helped her redefine her spiritual path, and it made her realize that she had never really given up religion. God had been there all the time. Rilke's use of images from the world of nature to describe humanity's relationship with the sacred and calling the sacred God resonated with Macy and reconnected her with the spirituality she thought she had lost. Excuse me. It also renewed her call to serve humanity. And so when her husband was hired to run the Peace Corps in post-colonial India, she began the work there that would change her life. She volunteered with Tibetan refugees, including the Dalai Lama, who had recently arrived. Now, Macy marveled at the way that they loved life and their tradition in a very, what she called, open-hearted way. It was a turning point for her. She wanted to learn how were they able to live in such a loving way even while they were in exile. It was then that she embraced Buddhism and the concept of Gandhi's Sarvodaya. Now, Sarvodaya was a term that Gandhi had used for his ideal political philosophy, but eventually it was translated into the name of a movement that many communities in Asia have used. Macy translated it as everybody waking up to work together by harnessing their energy. Waking up, she said, to your compassion, your joy, and to your responsibility. Since then, Macy's work has been to use the concept to help thousands of individuals and communities turn their despair into meaningful action by integrating contemplative practice rooted in spirituality with social justice. Her program is called The Work That Reconnects, and it is now taught all over the world. Now, Macy stresses that one of the most important things about people who are engaged in this social action is that they need to learn to let go of the results. And she gives an example of political campaigns. She reflects that we may work tirelessly for a particular candidate, and it's because usually we fear the future if that person doesn't win. But we can't afford to spend all of our energy concentrated solely on winning, she says. I'm not picking on any one of you, Terry. I see you laughing over there. We can't focus completely on whether we're win or not. She says you just go to work and you just do it. So that's Macy's way of saying actions speak louder than words. That's a philosophy that's been around for centuries. Philosophers, politicians, and even the people who wrote the Bible use different versions of that idiom to remind us that what we do is important, more important than what we say. From Confucius writing, "The superior man acts before he speaks, and afterwards speaks according to his actions," to the saying that's an Arabian proverb, "A promise is a cloud, fulfillment is rain." We all know that people like us don't just stand for things. We work to make things happen. In Macy's Work That Reconnects program, she stresses that non-judgment is the key. She says, just go out, connect with others, and do. She remembers that the most important lesson she learned from the Tibetans was that joyful lives are awakened only through action with and for other human beings. With and for other human beings. Our mission in life, she says, is to fall in love with the world through our work to save it. And Gandhi's life was a prime example. He did not just get up and make grand speeches about how to be civilly disobedient or how to live simply. He lived it every single day. Like Gandhi, Macy teaches us that being a spiritual being cannot be separated from the part of us that engages in social action. So, newly converted Reverend Barrows, that I've been telling you about, embraced that philosophy for sure. Although he was quite successful and very well liked in his Dorchester, Massachusetts Unitarian church, he only served there for 4 years. That's because a vacancy came up and it urgently needed to be filled as the editor of the very popular weekly Unitarian paper, the Christian Register. His reporting skills and his desire to tell readers about the lack of fairness that existed in the world prompted him to take the position. He and his wife spent 16 years editing that paper. And it was while he was doing that job that Barrows saw and reported on all the injustice suffered by African Americans, children, women, and especially those who were incarcerated. He was so moved by some of the things that he saw as he wrote that he also served on several advisory boards to protect the welfare of these sorts of people during his time. This crusader's powerful sense of justice and natural inclination to present all sides of a story led admirers to encourage him eventually to run for Congress. And he did, and he won. As a congressman, he was often asked to work on bills that were related to humanitarian issues and the arts and pacifism. But he especially became passionate about prison reform. And it was in Congress that he began his work on probation reform. And he continued that work until he died. However, unwilling to play the politics necessary, he did not get reelected. But he was still popular, and the president offered him 2 very high-ranking positions if he wanted to take them. And he refused both because he wanted to go where he felt he could do the most amount of good, and that was the New York Prison Association. And that's where he went and became secretary. That body made jail inspections and reported on prison conditions to Congress and to the state of New York. Now, as secretary there, he worked tirelessly to see a probation law passed, like the one that he had helped with in Massachusetts. The bill did get passed, but it had no money to fund it. So the probation officers that could have been hired couldn't get paid, so he couldn't find any. So he finally arranged successfully for them to be funded by churches, by philanthropists, and benevolent societies. And that way, more prisoners could go free as long as they had probation officers. Another important reform was to, and get this, abolish the practice, and this was happening all over the country, of paying sheriffs based on the number of prisoners they arrested and kept in jail. So Barrows believed that crime rates would diminish if cities would just concentrate on prevention. He said they needed to build more schools and more playgrounds. They needed to provide jobs for the poor, and they needed to improve the physical and moral conditions of large cities. He made a name for himself all across the country as he advocated for law enforcement and judges to see imprisonment as a last resort, not the first thing they wanted to do. He also worked for probation to be worked toward for everyone that was in prison, and he demanded that they halt prosecution of people with mental disabilities. He was so ahead of his time. When his wife wrote his biography, she called it A Sunny Life, because she said there was sunlight wherever he was. His middle name was June. That was not his given middle name, but it was a nickname given to him later because of his positive disposition, like a summer's day. But she also used that book title in reference to his endless work in creating better conditions for prisoners, including the fact that he stressed that no matter where you were in the country in jail, you should be kept in a room that had access to sunlight. Now, I could not help but see the irony when our book club here was reading the book, The Sun Does Shine, which is the story of Anthony Ray Hinton, a man who spent 30 years on death row for a crime he did not commit. Throughout his incarceration, Hinton kept dreaming of feeling the sun on his face. And not only was it infuriating that he was wrongly imprisoned, but the prison conditions that he talks about, and he went to jail in 1985, remember, those prison conditions sounded just like the conditions that Reverend Barrows talked about as inhumane a century before. You see, Barrows had visited model prisons in Europe in the year 1902, and then he identified what we needed to do in America to make our prisons more humane. The things he cited were things like gardens for people to have agriculture, room for outdoor walking and exercise, sunlight, electricity in every cell, ventilation and prevention of vermin, and the abolition of corporal punishment. We don't have any of these things for the most part, still. And every year, his agency, when they published their annual report, he would make sure to include expert commentary about the need for psychological care and rehabilitation. At the time of his death, he was working on a plan to completely rebuild one of the worst prisons in the country, Sing Sing. In Sing Sing, they had 900 7-foot by 7-foot cells, 2 men to a cell. Now, just to give you perspective, Ray Hinton, when he was released in 2015, he came out of a cell that was 5 by 7. And he spent 30 years there on death row. So now, I think Barrows would be pretty outraged to see how little we have changed the prison system. Nonetheless, I do believe prisons would be a lot worse if it wouldn't have been for that man who pushed for so much reform. And in fact, when he died, his wife received hundreds of letters from inmates saying that he saved their lives. Had Barrows never called attention to the state of prisons, where would we be now? You have to wonder. So for those of us that read the book about Alabama prisons, conditions seemed pretty bad. And then I thought, well, Michigan certainly cannot be like that. Well, let's take a look. There are 32,374 people in 26 Michigan prisons right now. Does that number surprise you? And the numbers are rising. We have the most prisoners we've ever had right now. We are among the few states with the longest sentences. The average sentence is 12 years. At the same time, Michigan's prisons are understaffed and criminally, against federal law, overcrowded. Infectious disease is rampant, and doctors and dentist visits for prisoners is months behind for them to get in. Now, if this doesn't upset you, just set foot in one of these places, as I have, and your blood might boil. So, I share all of this for two reasons. First, we have become more aware of the plight of prisoners due to our book club and reading the book that we did. And if you don't know, you should, that there's a support group from the Ann Arbor UU Church that meets here every month with people who are returning from prison. And they support them, they're advocates for them, just to help them with just daily things and to say, hey, we're looking out for you, because it is a hard transition. Secondly, when I'm out and about and I tell people where I'm from, people say, oh yeah, you're the church right next to Flint Community Players. Or they say, oh yeah, you have that sign, that electronic sign with those neat liberal messages. Or, oh yeah, you're the one with the rainbow flag. Now, all those things are true. I get it. But can we not be something more than that? What do you want people to think of when they say our name? So today, I would like to present a couple of small ideas. We're not huge, let's face it. So these are things that might be within the realm of possibility. First, I have to ask you, are you interested in the over 32,000 people who are incarcerated in Michigan? I hope you are. The Church of the Larger Fellowship, which is a UU church without walls, has a prison ministry program called Worthy Now. That is the program that the Ann Arbor Church is working through. Now, they have a lot of different kinds of programs, but the simplest way to get your feet wet is to get involved in their Pen Pal program. Currently, they need Michigan congregations to be hooked up with individuals that are incarcerated, and all you do is write back and forth to the people that don't have anybody. It doesn't involve money. It doesn't involve legal aid. Sometimes it's just sending a card during holidays and birthdays. And the program itself matches individuals. So I'd like you to think about that and let me know what you think. Now, we have one other program. A second project helps people who are homeless, low income, and who are transgender men. Did you know that menstrual products are taxed, even though they're a necessity for people of a certain age? Luckily, I'm not that age anymore, but the thing is, they're really expensive. If you haven't bought them for a while, they're really expensive. And the other thing that I discovered upon investigation this summer is that there's only 3 places in Flint who have menstrual products for free in their restrooms. Only 3 in a city this size. So, and the other thing I want to say is, lastly, I'm told it's emotionally taxing for transgender men to acquire menstrual products. Can you imagine? So I am proposing something called Flint Period. Now, this was not entirely my original idea. Community in Florida has started a similar program. But what it is a free period products program. And the idea is to stock stations that resemble those little free libraries. You familiar with those all over neighborhoods? Okay. You see them all over the place. They have books in them. Ours won't have books. They have free period products. Now that's just my first rendering of a logo, and we'd have one on our lawn. We have an architect who has agreed to come up with a prototype of the little container that would be out there. Wellness Inc. has offered to partner with us and help write a grant with us to get free or reduced price product. Volunteers could also donate or restock products. And my hope would be that eventually we would have several of these around the city so that people would have access to free products. So again, I would love to hear your feedback on this idea. So obviously, this is just a couple of things. The board's going to be having a retreat in a week to discuss long-range social action ideas as well. And this just fills two tiny little needs in our community, right? There's a lot more things we can do to help fill gaps in the services that are offered in our community, but these are two, and I'd like you to think about them. But I think Reverend Barrows would tell us that action is one of the reasons we exist. We are here to wake up together, and as Joanna Macy would say, just do it. Whatever it is. Because I hope someday when you tell someone, I go to the UU congregation of Flint, perhaps that person says, oh, you're the ones that, you fill in the blank.
Please rise. We're going to sing one more step. One more step. We will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word. We will say one more word till every word is heard by everyone. We'll say one more word. One more prayer. We will say one more prayer till every prayer is heard by everyone. We'll say one more prayer. One more song. We will sing one more song till every song is sung by everyone. We'll sing one more song. Thank you so much. Please be seated.
Now it's our time for generosity. Giving is a statement and expression of our faith. In all the ways we give and from all the means that we can give, it is with intention. We give to strangers in need and to our congregation with its mission to transform its members so that we may transform the world. We give because we can. We can is a reflection that much of what we have we did not earn. We've received freely from the generosity and privilege of others. What's mine isn't entirely mine, any more than the oxygen that flows through my lungs is mine. Please join me in sharing a portion of your resources, along with our goodwill, to reverberate through the universe, doing good in as many ways as possible by placing your offering in the basket at the back of the church as you leave, or by giving an online gift at uuflint.org. All gifts of treasure, time, and talent are gratefully received.
There's a saying, when a stranger appears at your door, feed him for 3 days before asking who it is, where he's from, or where he's headed. That way, he'll have strength enough to answer, or by then, you'll be such good friends, you won't care. Let's go back to that. Rice, pine nuts? Here, take the red brocade pillow. My child will serve water to your horse. No, I was not busy when you came, and I was not preparing to be busy. I refuse to be claimed. Your plate is waiting. We will snip fresh mint for your tea.
And let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
All right, our last song is a joyful one. Turn the world around. Stand if you'd like to. We come from the fire, living in the fire. Go back to the fire, turn the world around. We come from the water, living in the water. Go back to the water, turn the world around. We come from the mountain, living on the mountain. Go back to the mountain, turn the world around. So is life. So is life. So is life. So is life. Do you know who I am? Do I know who you are? See we one another clearly. Do you know who we are? So is life, Abatiwa. So is life. So is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Water make the river, river wash the mountain, river make the sunlight turn the world around. Heart is of the river, body is the mountain, spirit is the sunlight, turn the world around. We are of the spirit, truly of the spirit, only can the spirit turn the world around. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa, so is life, Abatiwa. So is life. Whoa,
Thank you for hanging in there. For those of you that would like to go directly downstairs for coffee and goodies, please feel free to do that. Or you may stay up here for 10 minutes or so, and we can have comments, questions, etc.
I have a question. So I was trying to take notes, but I started too late. Joanna Macy, Work That Reconnects, is that the name of the?
No, the name of her. The name of her program is Work Reconnects. Yeah.
Oh, Work Reconnects. Okay, okay, that's what I needed to know.
Yeah.
And of course, again,
Work That Reconnects. Sorry, I
Yeah,
forgot
Work That
that. Work That Reconnects.
Remember that
and
we're
there's
still
actually a
broadcasting.
website. There's a website.
And thank you for today's service. I love Joanna Macy. I think I heard of her first on Being, and her Rilke's poetry translations are wonderful. And I wanted to kind of a little more information on our concert, because it's very much in the spirit of today's service. Sing Out the Vote. David from Muster's Retreat called the church, and we kind of noodled around on ideas of what we want. We're nervous but excited about this critical election, and we want people to go joyfully into this voting and know that we have all the reason in the world to be glad and to come together. And so what we came up with is Sing Out the Vote. And the bands, Muster's Retreat, Matt Watroba, who used to host the folk program on the Detroit Public Radio Station, Dan Hall, Flint musician extraordinaire, and friends. And it's going to be the tickets are per donation, and all money's raised. There won't be, bands are not asking for money, the church is not asking for money. All money's raised will go to our local Planned Parenthood affiliate, which I think is appropriate this season. Question? Okay, but that's all I have to say then. But thank you. And please come.
Is that all, Terry? Really? Is that all?
Somebody hit. Sandra, somebody else had their hand up.
Okay, I'm gonna go here and then there.
Yeah, I was wondering, when you say these people come from Ann Arbor up here to work with prisoners, why are they coming up here? I mean, do they only work with people in Flint, or they don't work in Ann Arbor, or what?
Oh, good question. They meet halfway with the recently released person that lives up, I think, Saginaw. So this is just halfway for them, but we offer them space and make really sure they have a nice cool room in the summer, warm room in the winter. So we've got to know that program, and that's something this church could do too. The person that advised Lynn and I is, hey, find 5 or 6 or 7 or 4, whatever people here that would be a pen pal with someone who's still incarcerated. And it sounds like a little thing, but try and pair you up with someone who really wants to hear from someone. So it could be very meaningful, I think. And then we could go on to being mentors, where 5 or 6 of us would get trained and sit once a month with someone who's just been released. And, that can be eye-opening and really good work.
Ray, Sandra had, okay.
Well, I'm gonna go over here first, and then I'll go over that way.
I had one thought, Lynn. When you mentioned Reverend Barrows, you referred to his wife 4 or 5 times, including they worked together on, please mention her name.
Isabel.
Well, what I'm saying is, too often,
Oh, I'm
100
sorry,
years
yes.
ago, the wife was the cohort, was the help, was
Right.
and their names get lost. I didn't see her name until you showed a book. She had to be a very interesting person in herself to have written the book.
Right, and I probably only mentioned her twice, I think. I mentioned her name twice, I believe.
Oh, I just heard wife every time, so.
Yeah, but it's true. I could have mentioned it more than I did. But her name is Isabel.
He would have died at Custer's last name.
That's right. All right, I'm going Sandra and then Sue, because I need
But
my
thank you,
steps.
Ruth. It's a good reminder.
I wanted to offer a bit of clarification about the menstrual products. Michigan passed a law to eliminate the tax on those products 2021. Now, they're still expensive, but we don't have the 6% tax on them. We still tax diapers. So one thing to add to this is that there are women all over Genesee County. There are pockets of poverty outside of Flint. So I would advocate for broadening the project in name and in location to be all of Genesee County, and that we think about not only menstrual products, but also diapers. Right now, food banks carry those, but food banks buy them at a very reduced price from Food Bank of Southeastern Michigan. And there are food banks all over Genesee County. So that's another distribution outlet for us to consider. Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah, and so then I when I talked to Wellness,
Back
they
to
told me
Sue.
they were taxed. So I guess I should have done my own research on that.
Thank you, Lynn, for the service. I'm just going to advocate for, on the back of your order of service, September 29th is the Peace Vigil and Speaker at St. Paul's. We're going to have something here beforehand for people that want to come, a little bit of pizza, and then maybe carpool over because parking is not the world's best downtown Flint. It'll be available. Please, please come. I mean, if there's one thing that would help everyone in this world, it is peace. The other thing real quick is next Saturday at 2 p.m. at the library downtown Flint, there is a movie, free. It's American fiction. It is on how non-whites are invisible. It is funny. It was nominated for an Academy Award. It's free. Okay.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
This is a different note, I guess. Did Joanna Macy write The Great Turning, and what is The Great Turning?
Oh, yeah, she's actually written like, I don't know, 12 books or something. She was actually a professor when Jerry and I were there in Berkeley, and a lot of us took classes. Did you take one of her classes? But a lot of us did take classes with her. And so she talks about the great turning, about how we've almost destroyed the planet, but now we're in a place where we're
Coming back.
We're trying to come back, and we could actually save it.
All right, everyone. Oh, one more. Nope. Yes.
I just want to say great service today. I was educated, I was inspired, and I appreciate you pushing us to do better. That is something that I need my butt kicked sometimes. So thank you very much.
All right. Oh.
Yeah, and please, if you're interested in either of the projects, please let me know, or Jerry.
I just wanted to ask if we could get a copy of your sermon.
Yes, it'll be on the website in a couple weeks.
If you want a marked up copy, there's one in there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. And as again, Jerry, Lynn, thank you so much for that service. Sorry about turning off the cameras before we turned off the service.